This is a hull I'd be very, very happy to go up and down the coast on, maintain, you know, if we're realistic, 27 knots. Okay guys, there's gonna be some similarities between this hull and the 36 with shaft drives because they have a similar foundation, but there are a lot of differences. So I'm gonna try and explain that to you in this video, and I want you to appreciate beautiful Monaco. Off to our port side. Before we get into the busy part of it though, we are just gonna do a bit of a sweeping turn and head back into some more protected water. We have lots of lumpy stuff today. There were people actually surfing in Antibes yesterday on foiling boards, admittedly not surfboards, but if that gives you an indication of the conditions, we just had some wind and some lovely little short wave period swell blew through, and we still have a little bit of that left over today, which is going to make for a great test for us. So we're running the twin V8 300 horsepowers, which this is what this hull is rated to. I got my speed, GPS speed here. I got my total fuel flow here. We've got half a tank on board, and I got my revs here and here. I have the zip wakes on auto. There's actually 5 of us on board today with a reasonable amount of kit, and so it should be a fairly accurate test going through some of the waves. This hull has got a pod out the back, so that pod is allowing us to mount the outboards, which is going to give us the higher cruising speeds, the higher capabilities, and in order to achieve that you want a better hydrodynamics below the waterline, so they do have a different shape below the waterline at the back of the boat to allow for the water to suck its way through and reach the outboard props. So I'm just sitting on a really comfy cruising speed of actually 28 knots there with a total fuel flow of 130 litres. I'm just going to slow that down. And now when I come through 24 knots, my fuel flow goes all the way down to 85 litres. And 22 knots, I'm still seeing fuel flow hovering around that same number. I've got all the bodies in the back of the boat, so I'm a little bit arse heavy right now, as opposed to having them in the middle. I just wanted the shot to be nice and clean. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to speed up again and get her up to about 25 to 27. Noise levels are fantastic. You can see my revs just hovering at that 4,500 to 4,600 revs there. And that's 24 knots. And we're going to increase that speed a little bit more. We've got the swell coming on our, at times, port aft quarter, and in a second it'll be on our port beam. And then up there, when we do go through a few turns, it'll coming through on a couple of different angles. But at 4,700 revs, this hull is just absolutely lovely. And we've been taking it on all points today, and we are not taking any water on these windscreens. Although we do have windscreen wipers. Just going through some gradual turns now. I've got the zip wakes on auto, but I would feel possibly the need at this 28 knot cruising speed sometimes to do a little bit of bow down if I've got lots of people in the back of the boat, or just move that weight to the middle of the boat where you're going to have a little bit of better trim and balance. You do notice it. This is quite a sporty feeling hull. If you were someone who came from, say, a Chris Craft Calypso because you liked the looks and you wanted the weather protection that you got from that boat, this is a very, very logical step up. But I also see many of you guys buying this as a step across. It's definitely not a step down. You cannot say that about a toy. I mean a step across to support your big boat, where it's going to do that function quite well. So let's just bump that speed up a little bit. See, I've only just touched 5,000 revs for the first time today. I've got my active trim, and that's on auto. The zip wake remains on auto. I'm seeing 29 knots, super, super dry. super, super comfortable. You can see that wash being sent up the sides. When we go through some of these waves, we're going to do it again and again. I love it. I think this is terry toweling on the seat. It's so cool. I really like the colour combination on this boat. Obviously, check that out in the walkthrough if you haven't already seen it. So, key takeaways right now. Low noise levels. I can hold a conversation. Really good airflow. I've got a bit of backflow like this right now. Obviously, with the sunroof open, it's also making this whole area quite comfortable. I can crack that hatch there if I wanted to see a little bit more air, although I don't think that would be possible underweight. So for those of you in hotter climates, it's going to be fine most of the time. Then again, you can also fit a boat like this with AC if it's necessary. From a heel leg angle point of view, I'm just going to do a tighter one now. She's very predictable. And one more. Yeah, this is a hull I'd be very, very happy to go up and down the coast on. Being able to maintain, you know, if we're realistic, 27 knots, because that sits us at that 4,500 revs, 113 litres total consumption. But let's give it one little blast of wide open. I'm going to try and go across the swells for that. So just increasing the speed. Okay, 28 knots, 5,200 revs, 173 litres per hour. Clear all around, clear all around. And increasing the speed, 32 knots. Okay, that's full throttle. I think I'm going to do a little bit of engine trim up, 33. 5 people on board, half a tank of fuel. Waves, got to be careful some of these waves here. Boom, 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 boom. I'm seeing 33. I'm just going to try and have another little blast without waves and get you an accurate number there. 176 litres total consumption, 5,400 revs, a little bit of trim up on the motors, 5,500, and I'm seeing 36 knots. That was 35.9 to be exact. That's definitely an accurate test with a full load. And then let's just put it into a hard turn to starboard with power. So this is the difference if you go for the 36 inboard diesel. We're not going to see speeds and performance parameters like we are right now. So if you are, like I'm sure this owner is right here, wanting to visit Monaco, keeps the boat over there, and then maybe wants to pop down to Cannes or some other location on this beautiful stretch of coastline, everything is within reach at a 27 knot cruise with the ability to run at low to mid 30s if you're happy to just burn up that little bit of extra fuel. You know, cruising fuel flows from 85 to 113 litres per hour gets you places, and then wide open throttle as we saw. That's really, really easy. We've got the joystick, we've got a bow thruster, and obviously the twin outboards. It's going to be a different sensation to shafts. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go somewhere protected, and we'll put the boat through a few basic maneuvers so you can get an understanding about how she responds. Okay guys, I've just come into a calmer waters situation. We're just entering the marina and we've got a fuel dock on our starboard bow. And I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of how this boat maneuvers differently compared to the shaft drive option, and some of the extra things that you can achieve with this setup, particularly with outboards, that are not possible with shaft drives. Okay, so if you are thinking about a boat like this to maneuver by yourself, then this is going to be a consideration for you. So just pay attention because it might be useful. And just clear on the traffic. He's leaving. Got another small boat here. So first things first, we have Skyhook. So this enables us to hold station, you know, relatively the same area, and buys us time to go and set up the dock lines and hang the fenders, which you definitely want to do with a beautiful hull like this. So I always get the boat stopped as best as I can, and then neutral, activate Skyhook, Remembering we've got 7.5 ton light ship on this boat, so she's going to be heavier when you've loaded her up. So there is going to be work for the engines to do, but that also means more work for nature to take over. So we should expect a boat like this, low center of gravity, low windage, to actually take a while for the wind to overtake it. So if you go and buy a lighter day boat with a similar surface area to this, the wind is going to want to take over that boat a lot faster than something like this. So your job around the dock is just going to be a little bit trickier. That's it. All right. So we have a bow thruster. We do have the sky hook, which includes the joystick system and the good old throttles. But as you can see right now, I am clear of those rocks out to my starboard aft quarter, and I'm not moving relative to the fuel dock. I have left space because it's not millimeter accurate. It will move around by a couple of meters, so you are still in charge. You can't just relinquish responsibility to the joystick, but it does buy you the time to get the fenders out of the locker right there, hang them onto the side of the boat, making sure you hold on because you're not in control, obviously, and then set the boat up. Now, if I deactivate that, the engines will center again. I've got my fenders out on the port side. Now I'm just going to do good old transverse thrust, remembering I can do this maneuver with the joystick, but just to get a feel for it, see how much revs I'm applying to get the boat moving. That's the 7.5 ton coming into its own effect just there. That's the boat's weight, essentially wanting to slow things down for us. So if you want to speed that process up, you've also got a bow thruster. And obviously, if you are not comfortable or ready to operate it with the throttles like I am right now, you can just do good old joystick, which will allow you to complete that maneuver. So now I have the choice using a combination of thruster and engine to slide the boat in if I wish, or as I just said, I can then revert to the joystick. So as long as I go neutral and then back onto the joystick, it will actually take over and I now have control on the joystick. So I'm not actually going to touch in just yet because I want to repeat this maneuver essentially and get the drone shots. But hopefully that just shows you what is possible. I think the takeaway from what we just learnt there is a hull of this style, everything's very slow and steady. It's not a boat that's going to overtake you in a marina environment and cause you to have to rush around. So it's quite a relaxed parking scenario. So I've come into a quiet place, and drop of the anchor is pretty straightforward on this one. Not a lot to it, guys. There's 50 meters of chain, electric up and down, and because of the slope of the bow, you don't have to worry too much about the anchor swinging around and damaging your beautiful paint job. But this, in this particular scenario, we've just activated the sky hook again, and come on out here. This is Villa Franchi, now you're going to jump into the comments and correct me, I know. Villa Franche, I think. Anyway, it's a beautiful place. I have actually been here for lunch before, and it's a wonderful destination for those of you in this part of the world. So, outboards versus the straight shaft drive on the 36. Quite a lot of differences. Check with your dealer or the factory, because I do think they will actually be accommodating the V10s in the future on this particular hull, but do double check on that. I'm not 100% sure. But to be able to cruise around at 27 knots, to be able to top speed at 36, maybe a little bit more just with this engine package alone, to have this maneuverability, to be able to come in here and just press sky hook and take all the time you need to do whatever you need to do, that's perhaps the main difference that's going to be of consideration, or for you to consider, as to whether you go for something with a straight shaft drives or for the outboards. The looks, well, that's up to you guys. That's up to you. I think the speed is probably going to be a big factor. What would you compare it to? Well, I'll talk about that over on the Patreon. Not a lot is the answer, because there isn't much available with this much beauty out there on the market. There's a couple of boats, and I'll touch on that over on the Patreon. So I hope that was useful. I'll pop up another video right now of something
a little bit close to this for you to go and do your own research. Coming to you from wonderful south of France. Never get bored of this place. You shouldn't either. I hope you enjoy your boat life, whatever you've been doing this summer or in the upcoming summer if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. Love you lots. See you in the next one.